Amid the fighting and the fear, the children caught in the crossfire. And one 5-year-old girl whose struggle for life has moved the bureaucracy of nations. Tonight, Irma's story.
This is ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Whenever a story is too big or has been with us for too long, when we begin to fear that your patience may be wearing thin, we focus down to one of the smaller, more personal aspects of the event. And when I say we, I mean journalists in general. It is why you are possibly already familiar with the ongoing struggle for the life of one little girl from Sarajevo. Much of this broadcast tonight will focus not only on what happened to 5-year-old Irma Hadžimuratovic, but on why she, among so many victims, is tonight in London's Great Ormond Street Hospital for Sick Children. Getting her there required a battle of its own, with a whole variety of people banding together to cut through the bundles of red tape that threaten the lives of so many wounded children who need desperately to be evacuated out of Bosnia. We will come to Irma's story a little later. She is in critical condition tonight, still unconscious, receiving intravenous drugs just to keep her heart pumping. Meanwhile, as Nightline correspondent Dave Marish reports, the battle for the mountains around Irma's home, Sarajevo, continues.
Those beautiful mountains are where we used to all come together to enjoy ourselves. But now, those days are far away, and those mountains are the embodiment of ourselves.
The mountains, what had been the people of Sarajevo's greatest joy, has become their greatest vulnerability.
The mountains used to mean the good life, happiness. Now, only death. I got this zipper on the mountain. That's not enough? Look at my arms, full of scars, all from the mountains.
We climbed a small mountain, Mojmilo Hill, led by Bosnian Army Colonel Jovan Divjak. Death, he told us, was just over the crest.
Behind the soldiers here, about 50 meters, there is a Serb stronghold.
Mojmilo Hill is one of Sarajevo's front lines, part of the ring of defenses against a Serb nationalist siege that has now completely encircled the city. Looking back down from Mojmilo, we could see the whole Sarajevo Valley. I asked for the military eye view.
Over there are our defensive lines, and off in the distance, near those houses on the left, is my pioneer battalion. This is the most important job of their lives, defending their homes and families in Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Now, Colonel, I asked him, not as a military man, but just as a citizen of Bosnia-Herzegovina and a resident of Sarajevo. When you look across that valley, what do you see?
Things more beautiful than a battlefield. When this war is over, we will rebuild everything together, just as we have dug these trenches together. Happily, there are a lot of children down there, and a lot of scientists, engineers, and doctors who have stayed in town and who will know how to bring back the beauty of the whole Sarajevo.
Looking down at the town from where today's Serb nationalist shooters sit, the sight that first strikes the eye is Sarajevo's religious towers, the minarets of its 72 Muslim mosques, the twin bell towers of its Croatian Catholic cathedral, and the turrets of its Serbian Orthodox churches and main synagogue. Protestants, Catholics, Orthodox Christians, Muslims, and Jews all praying within a few hundred yards of one another. That spirit of tolerance has also defined Sarajevo for more than 500 years. And for the last 50 years, that spirit has been carried on by the town's leading newspaper, Oslobođenje.
The principle of multi-ethnicity, multi-religious, multicultural Bosnia, and we represent that with our editorial staff, which is almost perfect ethnic picture of Bosnia as it used to be, with Serbs, Muslims, Croats working together.
Because of what it represents, Oslobođenje has been a special target of Serb gunners.
Missiles, tanks, snipers, and it was destroyed, reduced to rubble. It's really unique professional experience, working in the offices without any phone lines, without faxes, without wire services, then without electricity. We have decided to continue our work no matter what circumstances are. That's the spirit of people in this country still being able to live together, work together, no matter what their ethnic background is. And that's what we want to prove, and we don't want to be destroyed.
Men, women, and children face destruction every day in Sarajevo these days. This destruction was almost certainly launched from the Serb nationalist side of Mojmilo Hill.
I was sitting on the stairs, tying my shoelace, when the shell went off and hurt me.
All around, I saw terror. My kids had been playing on the stairs, reading comics. Then they went outside to play a little.
At the moment I heard the shell landing, my son was just at the door of our building. It exploded, and I screamed. When I opened the door, I saw him. He was holding himself like this, and he said, "Mommy, Grandma, have I been shot?"
He had. But when his mother took 9-year-old Adnan to the hospital, she learned he'd been lucky. His wounds weren't serious. Other children weren't so lucky.
Just then, my neighbor's daughter ran up holding her head. "Please help me," she was crying. "My brother is bleeding." I ran downstairs and saw the boy lying in a puddle of blood.
When I got here, I saw a boy lying on the ground. Half his head was gone.
This open area in a lower-class housing project was where the shell came down 10 days ago, killing women and children. This atrocity only made headlines this week because of the belated campaign to save one 5-year-old victim, Irma Hadžimuratovic. Her aunt picks up the story.
They went for a walk. Irma, her baby sister Medina, her mother Elvira, and a friend who was killed as well. Elvira fell on Medina, so she survived, but Elvira was killed and Irma was injured.
I couldn't see Irma, only her mother and her friend.
Both women were dead. Irma was already being rushed to the hospital. And 3-year-old Medina?
My neighbor told me that she saw that little girl pulling at her mother's clothes and crying, "Mommy, Mommy, Mommy." The mother had jumped and covered the child to save her.
My children know best what happened. They saw it with their own eyes. Now my youngest says he's not going outside again.
When we come back, Dave Marish continues his report from Bosnia on the difficulty of getting little Irma out of Sarajevo.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by the Discover Card.
Today, a lot of credit cards charge you fat interest rates. Discover Card has changed all that. With Smart Rate, the more you use your Discover Card for purchases, the lower your interest rate can be. Now as low as 14.9%, plus cashback bonus. And no annual fee. Discover Card. The only thing we're heavy on is value. It pays to Discover, the card that pays you back.
In IndyCar racing, when it rains, we don't race on super speedways. But we're running this IndyCar on Goodyear Eagle GSC street radials to prove a point. What's the point? Outstanding wet traction. Eagle GSC, only from Goodyear.
I've got news. New Contact Day and Night Allergy Sinus Formula. Non-drowsy day caplets to relieve congestion and sinus pain, plus night caplets to relieve your symptoms so you can rest. New Contact Day and Night Allergy Sinus. The right medicine at the right time.
While everyone is eyeing the budget, prime time is eyeing the bottom line. More waste in Washington. Believe it, there's a never-ending supply. If there's one thing Congress knows how to do, it's spend your money. Prime time Thursday.
Take a good look at Lincoln Mercury. You'll like what you see. Style, features, and above all, quality. Take a good look at Beam and Lincoln Mercury. You'll like that too. excellent service, a better selection, and low prices. This is Nashville's premier Lincoln Mercury dealership. This is where we are. 2300 Franklin Road between Wedgwood and Thompson Lane. Easy to find. Whatever you're looking for, from the ultimate in luxury to superior family cars, you'll find it at Beeman Lincoln Mercury.
Summer's fun and Sonic. The burger and shake special. The burger's hot and the shakes are cool. You can get a burger and a shake for a special low price. The burger's for your hunger and the shake is for the heat. Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. The chocolate is definitely the best. The best. How can you go wrong? The best is the price. Burger and a shake for a special low price. Summer's fun at Sonic.
For Irma Hadžimuratovic, having his wife killed and his child seriously injured by Serbian fire was only the beginning of his troubles. Getting help and a chance for life for his daughter Irma became an all-consuming task.
She was wounded by shelling. In the same explosion, her mother was killed, and she came here with very bad wounds. In a hard shock, and she survived the operation. Then she died the day after the operation. She was clinically dead, but she's all right now. She's alive.
How many times did Dr. Edo Jaganjic of Sarajevo's French hospital save little Irma Hadžimuratovic? Once when she came in after shrapnel had torn her apart in the yard of her housing project, and then again after she briefly died in her hospital bed. And a third time when he refused to take no for an answer from UN officials who for almost a week denied his request to transfer Irma out of Sarajevo to a functioning hospital. Nightline first interviewed him last Thursday.
She has right now 3 things which can kill her so quickly. Something is happening in her brain. We don't know what. We have no electricity, and we have simply no way to find out what goes on inside. Something, method of her spine. We can't treat ILOs without laboratory, and we don't have laboratory.
No lab, no power, no source of clean water. The French hospital is like almost every other building in Sarajevo today. No place to cure little Irma Hadžimuratovic.
So in any normal hospital, she must survive. In this hospital, she will die in 2 days. We feel desperate watching her life going out of her, and we can't do anything.
Dr. Jaganjic was hamstrung by a United Nations bureaucracy. For Irma to be moved required the permission of a UN committee whose chairman, a French physician, Dr. Patrick Payot, insisted she was too ill to travel, even though he and the other members of the commission never examined Irma. 2 doctors who did examine her agreed with Dr. Jaganjic that she was well enough to move, but would certainly die if she didn't get out of Sarajevo. And for Irma's distraught father, Ramiz, there were other problems. I've lost my best friend, he said of his wife Elvira, who died covering her younger child Medina with her body. Now the young widower also had to overcome other bureaucracies. To get Irma the treatment, he suddenly needed passports. And to get passports,
I need photographs to provide necessary documentation.
But there are no passport photo shops in besieged Sarajevo. So in her hospital ward, we took pictures of Ramiz and Irma. Just in the 2 days since we had first seen her, Irma had already weakened badly. Dr. Jaganjic suspected an infection in her brain was contorting her body, arching her head painfully back. We rushed the film to the French news agency, Agence France Presse's photo lab, where a negative was quickly developed. But no news agencies print their film in Sarajevo. The only functioning print shop was in the half-destroyed building at Oslobođenje. Again, our professional colleagues pitched in, and by sunset we had passable passport photos of father and child. But there were, incredibly enough, more obstacles.
One form, number 6, is missing at the moment, but I hope we will find it. They also need power to make the passport.
The British satellite news service Sky News provided a generator which powered the printing of the passports. And the BBC forced the whole issue of Irma's relocation with a televised report that broke the bureaucratic logjam.
Girl might be dead by the time they get round to talking peace again.
By Sunday, the world was following Irma's predicament. By Monday, British Prime Minister John Major had gotten his foreign minister and his Air Force to intervene for her. Irma was rushed to Sarajevo's airport and then flown to Italy and on to London.
He's very stable, so panic over. He's seriously ill.
Dr. Anthony McDermott supervised Irma's flight to Britain. He feared he had arrived too late.
One does feel, though, that a more timely evacuation of this patient would have increased her chances of survival. We've now got more information about her general condition. We've now got diagnostic imaging that wasn't available in Sarajevo, and we're aware of some new problems that were not available from clinical examination. The next couple of days, I think, are going to be very crucial.
The latest word from Irma's London hospital is discouraging. Meningitis, which couldn't be diagnosed or treated in Sarajevo, is getting worse. Still, Irma Hadžimuratovic isn't casting blame. Typically, he's showing dignity, giving thanks.
First, let me thank the British government, Mr. Major, and everyone who helped my daughter to come to this country for medical treatment.
Meanwhile, this week in Sarajevo, the UN is promising to reform its system for the evacuations of injured children.
After little Irma put such a tragic human face on something, a horror that we face every single day, this is the way we're going to have to do it. We're going to put faces and names on every one of these cases from now on.
And the Bosnian Serbs are promising to stop shelling civilians in the city.
Yesterday, a 5-year-old was shot by a sniper. We have to keep our children indoors. We have no other choice.
A visiting mother, New York novelist and theater director Susan Sontag, has figured something out during her months in the besieged city.
When the Serbs shoot the civilians of Sarajevo, they can see the color of their eyes through their sights. Of course, they don't know whether they're shooting a Serb or Croat or a so-called Muslim or a person of mixed origin, which is the case with most people here.
Snipers targeting young children, mortar gunners shelling civilian neighborhoods. These are just 2 everyday war crimes committed by Bosnian Serb nationalists in their assault on Sarajevo. And the same British politicians who are tonight taking bows for saving Irma Hadžimuratovic have led the fight to prevent punishing the people who attacked her with NATO airstrikes or arms supplied to the Bosnian government. I'm Dave Marish for Nightline in Split, Croatia.
When we come back, a conversation we recorded earlier today with Dave Marish talking to us from the shores of Croatia.
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer battery. It keeps going and going and going.
At Ford Motor Company, we're already building vehicles that meet California's strict emission standards for the late 90s. We're the first U.S. manufacturer to build a car with CFC-free air conditioning. And we'll soon have a fleet of electric vehicles on the road. For us, designing quality cars and trucks means keeping an eye on the big picture.
At Ford, we understand that the quality of the environment is one of our greatest responsibilities.
Ford Motor Company, quality is job one. It's working.
Next time, Prozac. Can one pill taken at breakfast make you a new person? Also best-selling author Tom Clancy and the Reverend Billy Graham on the next Good Morning America.
I
Hi, Gary Willingham. The heat is on at Mazda Hickory Hollow, and so are the prices on our new cars and trucks. Here's Safemore to tell you more.
We're going to sell more Mazda Protegés this month than ever. Prices are low and deals better than ever. Zero down and only $89 a month, so hurry.
And we've still got a great selection of sporty Mazda MX-3s with air, aluminum alloy wheels, and much more for zero down and only $148 a month.
The heat is on, and we have the deals you want.
Mazda of Hickory Hollow.
Call us now.
Dance on down the rolling Cumberland River on the Belle Carroll Riverboat Party Cruise every Friday and Saturday night. Discover a unique nightclub alternative. Get together with friends to party. Enjoy stunning city views, romance, and fun, fun, fun. There's a boot scootin' boogie on the open-air deck and a rockin' and rollin' on the first deck. A whole lot of fun for everyone. Favorite beverage available, you must be 21 years of age. This week only half-price ticket, $548 plus tax with advanced purchase. Call 244-3430 or 1-800-342-2355.
It's a sizzling summer used car and truck sell-a-thon at Harpeth Ford Mercury. And because we sell so many new cars and trucks, we take in a huge number of trade-ins. So it's easy to find exactly the used car or truck you want in our huge inventory. In fact, we're the #1 used truck dealer in Middle Tennessee. We have over 200 used cars and trucks in stock, and they're all yellow tag sell-a-thon priced right now. So no matter where you live in Middle Tennessee or Kentucky, it's worth your trip to sell-a-thon savings at Harpeth Ford Mercury in Franklin, open Sundays.
Joining us now from the beautiful Croatian city of Split along the Dalmatian coast, Nightline correspondent Dave Marish. It seems 1,000,000 miles away from the war, Dave.
Ted, it's about a 40-minute flight by the UN planes that shuttle back and forth to Sarajevo. It feels quite literally like an interplanetary trip.
Just a quick word or two about that little girl, Irma. One had the sense that everyone was desperate to do something for her, not only because she was a little girl, but because of the need to do something about someone.
That's very true, and in fact, Irma's case has already changed UN policy on the evacuation of children and has gotten the British government suddenly to accept 21 more children. There are at least that many more currently in hospitals in Sarajevo, not all of them in as bad condition as Irma Hadžimuratovic, but all of them much improved if they could only get out of Sarajevo, where there's no power, no water, and really no hygiene at all for an ill child.
Now, talk to us for a moment about the city of Sarajevo, where you have spent the past week. And many of us, I fear, are laboring under the illusion that this is purely a religious war that is going on over Sarajevo. This morning on the phone, you made sure we all understood it is not. Why don't you explain?
This is not a war among three religious groups, Ted. This is a war between extreme nationalists who want to define the world in terms of your or my religious or ethnic background, and people very much like us Americans who want a pluralistic democracy in which we define ourselves by who we are. In Sarajevo today, there are Serbs, Croats, and Muslims, Jews and agnostics, all fighting to retain a mixed democracy against Serb ultranationalists who want to essentially impose an apartheid state on Yugoslavia.
Why is it that they are being crushed, or why is the effort being made to crush them? What is the great danger to the Serb nationalists and, for that matter, to the Croatian nationalists?
There are two reasons. One is symbolic, and that is that Sarajevo, with its 500-year history of tolerance and multiculturalism, puts to the lie the basic ideology of the Serb ultranationalists, which, as they say, is that we cannot live with them. In Sarajevo, all the nationalities, all the ethnic and religious groups do live together in relative comity and harmony. So there's that symbol. But there's also a much graver practical danger. If Sarajevo can retain its integrity and can continue to be a true capital city, even in a rump Bosnian state, and note I say Bosnian and not Muslim state because almost no one in Bosnia wants a Muslim religious state. If Sarajevo can continue to be a viable capital, it could exercise a magnetic effect and create a tremendous brain drain among the most talented and most liberally oriented people in the capital of Serbia, Belgrade, a state that is now thoroughgoingly fascist, and in the capital of Croatia, Zagreb, a state that is growing more totalitarian and limited every day. And I think if Sarajevo were a viable place to live, you would see a migration of the intellectual and moral elite of both Serbia and Croatia getting out of these, as I say, disintegrating and now more and more totalitarian places for the warm democratic climes of Sarajevo.
In a sense, though, what you refer to as the elite, I would think would be regarded in those totalitarian states as a great danger to the state. Wouldn't they want them out of there?
Not at all. I mean, these are the most talented bureaucrats, the most talented technocrats, the most talented academics in the state, the people who, like everyone in America, depend upon intellectual freedom to develop not only their personalities, but their professions and their careers. In the very limited freedoms that are now allowed in Belgrade and in Croatia, it gets harder and harder for that kind of intellectual freedom to flourish. If Sarajevo continued to be the historical Sarajevo, that would be a stark and I would think very attractive alternative to, as I say, what I think even their own governments would consider some of their most valuable and important citizens.
Given everything that you have said then, Dave, I find it impossible to believe that either the Serbs or the Croats can allow it to exist.
Well, certainly the Serb nationalists show no signs of relenting. For all of the fancy footwork atop Mount Igman and Mount Bjelosnica, it is the strongly held impression by UN troops that no significant strategic change is taking place, that the Serbs will continue to control all access routes in and out of Sarajevo, and will have the ability to cut off all supplies. Now, according to this truce, the Serbs are also obligated not only to stop shelling the town, but to restore power, water, and light. I would say that if you see that actually happen, then there may in fact be a normalization and a relenting in the siege. Without that, life in Sarajevo is simply hell.
Dave Marish, thank you very much indeed. I'll be back in a moment.
Okay, folks, it's shaping up to be quite a morning. Everything's backed up. Looking east of Interchange, we've got an overturned tractor trailer causing major rubbernecking and delays. Heading into downtown, which, well, you might as well just put it in the park.
The facts. Just the facts. When you buy a Price Pfister, you get far more faucet. Starting with a fabulous engineering inside, on top of which they add fashion galore. Far more faucet for far less money. Which is why nothing, in fact, compares to Price Pfister. The fabulous faucet with a funny name.
Of all the things around your house that need batteries, there's one thing that needs a good, fresh battery most of all. See your Allstate agent for a free home fire safety brochure. And please, check the battery in your smoke detector often.
Dr. Markson, please report to OR room 5. Dr. Markson, OR room
5. I had a 3-dog night in a 2-horse town. My dogs were barking. I needed a rental car fast. Say, I need to rent a car I can afford.
I need to rent a car I can afford.
Are your cars reasonable?
Well, if you talk nicely to them.
That's right, Leslie. Dollar Rent-A-Car has the right car for you. Call 275-1081 or in Brentwood at 371-8500. Dollar Rent-A-Car.
Maiming, killing, rape and torture of young girls and women are happening now in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Organizations like Caritas of Birmingham give these people hope. Through a network of friends, Caritas is able to get food and medical supplies directly into the hands of those who need the most. If you feel in your heart as we do, please call 1-800-240-HELP.
And that's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
Nightline is a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.